The smartest money in the world does not want to lose money. As much as you and I don't want to lose money, they're even more driven by it, which is funny.
Welcome back, passionate investors. I'm your host, George Roberts, author of Passionate Living Through Passive Investing. And today I have the pleasure of interviewing Colin Plume, founder of Noble Gold Investments, a leading precious metals IRA brokerage, and My Digital Money, a cryptocurrency IRA platform. He's also the best-selling author of Silver is the New Oil, a book that details how this commodity is playing a crucial role in shaping the economy of the future. And now it's time to introduce our exciting guest for the day, Colin Plume. Welcome to the show.
George, thank you for having me, and excited to be on to talk about the red-headed stepchild of precious metals, silver, that now people are starting to appreciate a little bit.
That's great. So let's talk about that QE. So there's some reasons behind that. You mentioned fewer central banks holding U.S. Treasuries. So there's a little bit maybe less demand there, maybe some demand for monetization on our side or on our part, some maybe need or desire for that. And then at the same time, we have the homeowners who want to be appeased. People have been essentially stuck in their homes for a long time.
Yes.
Is that some of the things that you see perhaps, or maybe you see other factors driving the QE as well?
It's the homeowners being stuck in their homes. It's the whole real estate market being on pause for the past
Yeah.
few years.
Tell me about it. That's what I do, and
Yeah,
a lot of our listeners.
yeah, it's a very hard one. The reason a lot of times people will have me on is because I own a lot of real estate too. I'm in equities. I'm in a lot of gold. I own a number of things. I own a lot of businesses and I own businesses partly to be diversified because I don't believe in the dollar. People always say to me like, "Why do you have?" Because I have five businesses. Why? And I say I think I can do better than keeping it in the dollar. That I know that putting it out there and getting it to work in a good product that I have control over, I have a better chance. And it's really just this, like, if this was 50 years ago, I wouldn't. I would just put the money in the market, buy some gold, buy some bonds, and I'd be done. But I don't trust that anymore. I think that there's a lot of commercial debt that is going to come due next year and I own a lot. I'm part owner in a number of apartment buildings that they're not going to be able to refinance at the rates. Everyone's going to have to put more money in. And are they going to be willing to do that? Are they going to put, these properties are going to refinance at 5.5% that were originally at 3%. The rents haven't gone up that much. The value hasn't gone
No,
up enough. So either you got to put more money in or you hand it back to the bank. Well, that's going to happen all across the country
yeah, it has
unless,
been.
and
It's
it's
not over
happening.
yet.
Yeah, it's not over. It's
Yeah.
happening. So what are they going to do? How does that change? And so that's why my hypothesis, which, I'm a man on a hill,
Yeah.
maybe I'm a crackpot, who knows? But I do think it could
Doing
happen.
well so far.
I'm doing okay, but I just think that like something has to shift. And if,
Right.
if lowering rates with the Fed does not bring the 10-year down because there's not confidence in our bonds, then
Yeah.
the mortgage rates don't drop. Then
Yeah.
then what they're doing is futile. And so, I mean, listen, I hope they don't have to do quantitative easing because it's not good for the dollar. It's not good for our country.
No.
I just don't know if they're going to be able to do it because the Fed doesn't have any other tools. They got lowering rates, and then they just, they have these tools, these quantitative easing where they can just,
The balance sheet.
yeah, they can move things. I mean, getting gold back to current value would be a way to put some money on the balance sheet too. I don't think that would stimulate real estate. I think it'd be good for the country if they did that because if they made gold at $4,000 an ounce, that'd be $1 trillion of value. We could just put that directly on the books without selling. That would probably be a good thing. It'd be bad for the dollar, but it'd be good for our debt. So there's only so many tools they have, and just lowering rates. I mean, we saw it. Like mortgages went down for a second, then they rose back up. So obviously the confidence in the bond market isn't enough anymore. So,
Right.
um, so yeah, it'll be interesting to see how that kind of settles out. Coupled with now that, AI is taking a lot of jobs, I think, a lot of this office space is going to have to be converted across the country. It's not going to be able to stay office. There's just as much as, BlackRock and all these guys want people to come back in the office. Yeah, that works for a lot of companies, but a lot of companies are not. And so there's going to be vacant towers all across the country. And if they can get some stimulus to turn it into apartments or condos, whatever, there's a revenue stream there. Then they can start making money again. So I think there's like different ways we need to like stimulate, but I think it's all based on stimulation and getting money out there. And that's why I do think there's a strong argument that they'll do that.
Yeah, good stuff. Well, we talked about reversion to mean in terms of purchasing power of silver, but what about the silver gold ratio? I always like to look at this because it's gotten so crazy. I mean, I think we started out at like 2.5 to 1 in the time of King Menes of Egypt, and now, I mean, we topped what was it? I think 125 during the pandemic. So, are we going to see some reversion to the mean? Is silver going to get a little closer to tracking the price of gold in the future as these deficits mount?
3 to 1 would be quite interesting.
So just to go on the record, Colin Plume would be happy if we could get back to a 3 to 1 ratio. So,
100%.
okay.
100%.
So you just retire at that point and it's all good, and all your
Yeah.
people retire too.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Yeah. Yeah.
But in terms of rather than a wish list, like what do you think we might actually end up with? I think we were closer to last I checked was in the 80s.
80. Yeah. We're like 81 to 1. The 100-year average is around 60 to 1.
Hmm.
We've hit 16, 18 during 2011. At the peak, we hit like 30. So I think, 100-year average of 60 is probably a pretty realistic number. I mean, that's over 100 years of trading that it hit those. It really comes down to if the industrial uses continue to grow in the way that they have. But I think that, the safe money, like I'm in a unique position in that I'm in the gold business, but I have a lot of real estate and also hedge fund friends. I've met people through doing this, people that bought gold from us. Hedge funds, I can't even tell you how many hedge fund people buy gold from us which is fascinating to me because they're like looking at everything, making
Yeah.
bets, hedging seems boring for them to buy gold, right? It doesn't seem like, and yet since the pandemic, hedge fund guys, bond traders, all of these guys have been even more bullish than me on gold. And I think that's just a testament to them analyzing the market, watching the markets, and really looking at the wealthiest people in the world that are always looking at protecting their downside. And I think that's the thing that I learned the most in being this business the past 17 years is that the smartest money in the world does not want to lose money. As much as you and I don't want to lose money, they're even more driven by it, which is funny
More on the
because
defensive game. The
they're
better
more,
bigger you get.
yeah, and it's funny because who cares? Like, what is a billionaire even if he loses a billion? But they even want to lose less, and so and they're dealing with these people, they're negotiating, and they're saying, I got it. They keep buying gold, they keep socking it away. They like metals, they like silver. So I think it's really fascinating that it feels like an old relic. If it's in the Bible and the silver's been around all, but yet you have the smartest, wealthiest people in the world that they own it and they want it physical too. They don't trust. These guys do not trust ETFs. I can tell you that.
Okay, good, good. Because I wanted to ask you about that. Physical silver, okay, there's ETFs, but one other way to play the game is to invest in the miners.
Yeah.
Any interest in that, or are you just 100% physical silver?
I think I'm okay with the miners and I own some mining stocks. I just don't own enough and study enough to speak on it. But I
Hmm.
have a person that helps me and we do buy it and I believe in it and it's done very well, especially the last 2 years. But
Yeah.
I think more people don't want to spend time looking at all their investments the way I do. Like people don't want to look at cap rates I mean, they don't want to do this stuff. So I think that the beauty behind gold and silver is that with us, you own it, it's yours. There's not that much studying necessary. You sock it away and it's there for later. So I think I think you need to have a few investments like that you kind of just hold over time. So that's really what we focus on. but I do own mining stocks, and I think you can do very well there. But that's not going to be your safety play. That's more you're trying to go 20, 30x or 40x. You're trying to get a bigger return. And obviously, when things slow down, because I remember, 2018 and 17, friends that were in mining stocks were miserable. And
Oh
so
yeah.
there's,
Yeah.
miserable years. Whereas when you're in gold and silver, even if it's not moving like that, it's a lot of times it's kind of consolidating and it doesn't feel as bad. Whereas when you bet on a miner, I think you get into the gold rush mindset. You're just thinking they're going to strike it again. They're going to find it. And if they
Yeah.
don't, it's sort of depressing. And I remember talking to people about it. That's why I didn't spend too much time there because I said, listen, I'm in the gold and silver business. It's enough work and getting the metal and, focusing on the client experience. That's what I'm going to focus on. The mining stuff, just for me, just there's so much brain damage there. I just focus my energy more on what we're doing here.
Yeah, it makes sense. And then, you make predictions in a field that's very difficult. We're not talking about something like real estate that's relatively stable. Commodities are tremendously difficult. So I would like to get into questions about what you believe and why you believe it, or maybe on a deeper level, what's one thing that you've believed in the past that you've changed recently and why?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think what I believe, it's like, remember when they used to tell you coffee was bad for you, and then they told you coffee was good for you, then they told you coffee was bad for you, and then they told you that women shouldn't breastfeed, and then they should breastfeed, and then I do think there's something like fundamental about this business that I think early on I didn't really understand because 17 years ago when I started, it was a lot of tinfoil hat people and a very niche group that actually believed in this. And then as it became more mainstream, it started to become like, well, yeah, over those I saw other things go up. You said crypto and you see all these things and you go, okay, I guess there's a place for it. But then you always kind of come back to this just simple truth, which is that there is something about having an asset in your hands that doesn't have any debt. And as much as I like, you listen to a guy like Dave Ramsey, who's a big proponent of no debt, which is ironic because he hates gold. But anyways, at the end of the day, like that simple idea has done well for him and millions of people listen to him. And I guarantee a lot of people have done well just because that simple idea, maybe it's not you're not going to get the richest, but just having things you own by yourself. And so that's the
Right.
thing that I always come back to with gold and silver and what we do is that you cut out the middleman, you got it in your safe, it's yours, you know what you got. And when the world shuts down or the world, when we have another stock market collapse or terrorism or any of these things, you still got the thing, gold and silver. You got the thing that's always been around, that's always money, it's always worked. Anywhere in the world, they'll take it. I mean, it is kind of unique in that what other things can just be sold anywhere? That you have an ounce of gold, you go to Dubai, you go to London, anywhere they'll take it. And then, so it's just the simplicity that I think I always come back to with it. And I think even more so with me being a lover and an owner of real estate, I thought real estate was sort of bulletproof. And I realized, over the last few years that there is things that can happen. The government can come in and make a good business, sort of a shitty business, excuse me, but they can regulate it. They've put restrictions on you. They've done all these things. Everyone's feeling it. We own a lot of partners in a lot of apartment buildings, and it's been very difficult to run that business. The amount of government money and like the laws that have just benefited the tenant, and I get it, but they've just put their hands in the pockets there and made it very, very difficult to run that. And so all those things sort of make you realize that like anything can have an issue. Equities, AI could be something can happen there, and something can happen in real estate, and something can happen in the bond market. But at the end of the day, unless they can create gold, which people say they're going to figure it out, I don't think so. Unless they can create gold and silver, somehow for substantially lower than what it costs, it will be around and it'll be used. Diamonds are a good example. They did it, right? And it screwed up the whole market. So I never want to say never, but as long as that is true, as long as it, gold has to come from space and land here and, all the different ways that gold's created, and they have to mine it out of the ground. As long as that stays true, I think it will be an asset that you should own. And so that's the simple thing that I always sort of come back to. And that's from just years of experience and just watching the markets over 17 years, watching all these assets that you thought were like, that'll never change. That's going to be good. And then those things, something does happen. The government comes in or entities come in, or it just, there's a bubble that bursts, there's just all these things that could potentially happen. And so, I could be wrong about that, but as long as they need them in the world, I think gold and silver will do well.
Yeah, outstanding. Yeah, all about keeping what you got. That's the most important thing once you become wealthy.
Yeah.
And I think if you don't mind, it'd be a good time to move on to our lightning round. So on a scale of, say, 1 to Superman, what would you say your lightning round skills are?
My lightning round skills, maybe like Robin, like Batman and Robin. Could that be? Can I be in the middle?
Okay. All right, fair enough. Fair enough. I like it. I like the modesty. Usually everybody's like, yeah, I'm 11. Okay,
I
Colin, if you
don't
could be
know.
known for just one thing, what would that be?
I want to be known for being a nice person, a good person, nice person.
Okay, what is the one mistake that has taught you the most?
The one mistake is I have really smart people around me, like mentors, my wife, my parents are still like not going to them first on any big decision was always a mistake.
And what personal characteristic has been most pivotal to your success?
I don't think I don't know a lot of things. There's certain things, small things I know a lot. Everything else, I'm willing to ask a million questions and learn, and I listen to people and I take it in. And so I think that's my strength.
I love that sort of growth mindset. That's exactly how I approach investing. I think you have to. Things change, facts change all the time. All right, now, since I didn't ask you my normal whimsical questions for fun, just one quick fun question. Cutting a deck of random questions. Tell me when to stop.
Stop.
All right, top question. What would you love to find at a yard sale other than silver?
What would I love to find at a yard sale? At a yard sale, I love like any old Dodger baseball card. Anyone that you can think of, I would love to find that at a yard sale.
All right, great. So look, that's a wrap. I just want to make sure that people can reach out to you. So email, website, carrier pigeon, or smoke signals. What is the best way to reach out to Colin Plume?
Phone number of the company or website, I would say would be the two best.
Sure, sure. Just hit us. What do we get for the people who are listening? We'll put it in the
Uh,
notes for those who are.
yeah, 877-646-5347. And the website is noblegoldinvestments.com.
Beautiful. Well, I want to say thank you so much for
Thank
taking the
you.
time to share your knowledge and experience with our audience today.
Thanks. Thanks, George. Nice to meet you.
All right, awesome. Yeah, likewise. Great interview. Thank you.
Thanks so much. Have a good day. Bye-bye.